What's going on, party people? Coach Joe here, the CEO and head coach of Heartletics. And hear me out. I'm going to be the first one to tell you guys firsthand. Last week was hard, right? It was very, very hard. It was difficult for me. And before we get started into, why it was difficult for me, why it was a hard week, I just want to share this, right? I'm just going to be completely open and honest with you guys on today's episode. And hopefully, if you're somebody that is just looking for some help, you're looking for some reassurance, you're looking for some guidance, this is going to be the episode that's really going to help you guys out. So what was last week and why was it so hard? Well, last week was July 4th and it laid on a Tuesday, right? A random Tuesday. So think in terms of this, right? Monday, people are thinking about the holiday. Tuesday, hey, it's the holiday. The day afterwards, no one is thinking about work, right? And then it's like then it's like Thursday and Friday. Everybody's just like, oh man, it's just like, let's get it over with for the weekend, right? I can say firsthand, right? That was me, right? Last week destroyed me, okay? Especially because the previous few days before the holiday, before July 4th, I had my photo shoot. So, I just got done finished up with a water cut. I got ripped. I got shredded. I was very, very proud of myself because that was by far the best I have ever looked for a photo shoot before. I hate to say this, hate to brag, but man, I look good. Plain and simple. I look good. And I grinded through training. I grinded through the nutrition to look that way, for that photo shoot. And I was just very proud of myself, But then afterwards, right, here comes the binge eating day, the mini food challenge on Sunday, right? Because of all the hard work that, I sweated through for that photo shoot. And then Monday comes and I'm like, oh man, tomorrow's July 4th, right? So like, why don't we just start the, back on the horse, right? Back on the diet the following, few days. But then obviously that doesn't happen because then it's like, hey, July 4th comes, you eat everything in sight. And what I mean by that, right? Like I'm very mindful, but still, I'm Italian. Like I like to smash, right? Plain and simple. And I have a huge sweet tooth, right? My downfall is like cookies and brownies, cakes, right? My wife always buys these like chocolate chip muffins. I literally ate them all, right? Like I kid you not, I smashed. And once again, right after July 4th was a Wednesday. So then it's like, oh man, like, nobody feels like, dieting on a Wednesday. Like, come on, just start over on Monday. And that's exactly what I did. And today's that Monday. Okay. So depending on when you're listening to today's episode, just know that in terms of the time frame, there's no rhyme or reason, right? Because you could be having this just go through your life in any different day of the week, any different holiday, any different season of a life, where you feel like, man, I just pigged out. Why even bother? Right? Why even start again? Like, I was just like, maybe you're somebody that has been dieting for the longest. You already see some great results, but you let one day turn into 2 days. 2 days turn into 3 days. 3 days turn into 4. 4 days turn into 5, and then 6, and then 7, where it's a whole week of just eating everything in front of you, not caring at all. That was me, guys. Right? That was me firsthand. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you is because, one, I want you to understand that I'm only human, right? And you're only human too, right? Plain and simple. And like, sure, I have maybe some more knowledge in terms of like mindfulness, but at the end of the day, like I slip, I fall, right? Sure, I have some certifications in personal training and nutrition and strength and conditioning, but I slip, I fall, right? Like, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you're probably thinking like, man, I don't want to be that guy that's tracking my macros and hitting my calories. Like, I don't want to do all that. I just want it easy. Hey, guess what? Like, I'm somebody that feels that way at times too, where I don't want to track, right? I just want to eat it, what I want in sight and just be more mindful, have that intuitive eating approach. But hear me out, right? Like, it all comes down to a point where you have this realization with yourself of, okay, hey, I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to get started. And it's okay if you don't feel like tracking. I don't feel like tracking at times either. But at the end of the day, like if you want to create a habit over something, you got to do something you're not used to, right? So that's for the members out there or anybody that's listening that is just, hey, they don't want to track their food. Like anybody, right? Hear me out, right? You could be thinking like, oh, I'm eating healthy, but hey, you got 2 scoops of peanut butter, and next thing you know, you're like 300 calories deep into all these grams of fat and whatnot, and you're way over on your calories. You're not going to see the results you want, right? So at least be mindful and at least start tracking to create a habit out of it until you get it down to where it's systematic for you, until you get it down where it's easy. Now, the other people that's going to be listening to this is the people that I've been talking to already since the beginning. And these are the people that they feel like, why should I start again now? I just blew everything under the water, right? Sabotaged everything. Went AWOL last week because of the holiday being in the middle of the week. Why should I get right back on? Here's the reason why. Okay? There is 365 days in the entire year. And let's just say you had 7 bad days all of last week, AWOL, right? Guess what? It's okay. Let's get right back on the horse. Let's pick ourselves right back up, right? Let's brush off our shoulders and let's get right back to where we're trying to get to. And I want today's message to be a daily reminder for you guys of where we're trying to get to. And no matter if there is some holidays, some injuries, some sicknesses, some just days where you don't feel like, participating and working on your physical fitness and eating healthy, it's okay. It happens to me as well. It's okay. Nobody's perfect. But here's the thing, right? What separates the winners from the losers is the ones that pick themselves up, is the ones that get right back on the wagon, get right back on the horse and say, you know what? Hey, last week there's nothing I can do about it at all. Sure, I messed up. Sure, I overate. Sure, I didn't work out as hard as I probably could. It's okay. We can't go back and change the past. But what we can do is use the past and say, okay, I don't want that to happen again. Maybe next year when July 4th comes around again, maybe instead of it being 7 days of smashing my face with brownies and cookies, I only make it 6 days or I only make it 5 days. And then the following year, 3 days or 4 days, and you can see that progression. Because at the end of the day, like being in shape and this whole thing about being physically fit and being healthy, it has nothing to do with just being super strict and super religious on what you're doing and hey, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. No. What it has everything to do with is not giving up. Plain and simple. Not throwing in the white towel. Because I'm sure, right, you have done that plenty of times before in the past. I know I definitely have. But if there's one thing that, being in shape has taught me about health and fitness, it's that, hey, there's going to become times of struggles and adversities. But the last thing that we want to do is just give up. Because there's without a question, right, you are 100% certain that if you throw in the towel, you throw in, and just quit, you will never have success. But if you pick yourself right back up, get on the wagon, guess what? The likelihood of you having success, the chances are going to be a lot higher than if you just quit and threw in the white towel. Okay? So hear me out. Where do we start from here? I think that's the big understanding is, one, give yourself some grace. Like it's okay. Sure, you messed up. I definitely did, right? But where do you pick yourself up at? Because I feel like this is where most people, they go into this weird good food versus bad food, diet trends, strict stuff, whatever it is that you want to call it. I definitely have done this plenty of times before in the past, before I actually got certified in nutrition. And this is when I learned that I was doing all the wrong things. And that is simply this, right? What are the wrong things? Well, one, you could, have a bad day or a bad week of overeating and decide to just say, okay, well, hey, I'm just going to go, outdo everything and just do tons and tons of cardio or train really hard and not eat anything, right? Keep my calories super, super low. That's a problem, right? Because now you're having this good foods versus bad foods relationship with nutrition. Not good at all. Because what you're doing is you're training your mind saying, hey, when you overeat, now we have to train harder, right? So it's punishment. That's not sustainable. The second thing that you could do, right, and this is what I used to do all the time, is just say, okay, well, hey, let's just play it simple, right? We'll cut out our fats, we'll cut out our carbs, we'll only eat protein. And once again, not sustainable, right? Because you're having an unhealthy relationship with food, and food equals fuel, right? Your carbs, your fats, your protein, right? All the macronutrients, it's fuel, it's energy, right? And it's all about having that balance, all about having that healthy relationship with food. you know? So hear me out. Where do you start from here so you don't make all the mistakes that I used to make before in the past? It's simple. You start right back where you first left off at. And so what does that mean? Hey, pulling out your favorite app, start to log everything that you're consuming, and just make sure that you're sticking to eating the right amount of calories for your body to be in a deficit to lose body fat. Start focusing on hitting your protein goal and being consistent with that. And wherever the carbs and the fats play around and fall into place, so be it. Right? That's all you need to do to start. And in terms of like the training, what should you do? Well, hey, what I always like to preach and teach our members about is, hey, just follow through with the 7 essential fat loss habits for success. So obviously, 1, your calories. 2, your macronutrients. And I already talked about your protein. Just focus on that. 3 is your strength training. Whether you're working out at home or whether you work out in the gym, doesn't really matter too much. But hey, you got all that extra food in you got all the extra sweets in you, go get a pump in, go get a workout in, right? Like burn it off, plain and simple. Not saying kill yourself, but hey, at least utilize those calories, right? The fourth thing is the N.E.A.T, the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And this is by far our favorite fat loss habit. And this is where you're just moving around more, right? So once again, you got all the calories playing around in you, right? From the past few days or the past few weeks. Guess what? Just use them. Move around. 5 is making sure that you're drinking plenty of water, especially if you overate. You had all these cakes and cookies like I did. I'm pounding the water to flush out everything out, all the bad toxins right out of me. And 6, very important here, is the stress management. And so what do I mean in this situation? Well, hey, obviously, cheating on your diet or having all these, sweets and cakes and pizza and whatnot, it feels really good, right? Really good in the midst of you eating it. But afterwards you feel guilty. Well, guess what? That could also lead to a lot of stress. And this is why I'm very thankful for our coaching program where we help members learn how to not have that guilty relationship with food after they overate the next day, right? Where it's like, oh man, I'm regretful, right? That's why I said, have some grace for yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be, contemplating about the past and your eating habits and whatnot and being upset about them, you're going to be underneath a lot of stress and you might not even know it. Stress doesn't just come from, drama at work or drama at home. Stress could be injuries. Stress could be your relationship with your food. Stress could be feeling guilty or worried about something. Like there's a lot of forms of stress here. And stress can obviously spike your cortisol levels, which is making it very difficult to lose body fat overall. And then lastly, 7, the recovery process, right? It's like, hey, making sure that you're, eating plenty of the right foods, making sure you're sleeping properly, training properly, active recovery. That recovery process is huge to help lower that cortisol levels down, but also making sure that, once again, you're utilizing those calories. You're utilizing, the strength that you're building within the gym. So hear me out. From somebody that has been, doing this for several years. And what do I mean by doing this? Well, first off, I mean coaching, right? Thousands of members through the last 7 years. That's what I mean by doing this. But in terms of just, hey, being fit, being active, I mean, we're going on, 15 years here, 14 years basically since I was a sophomore in high school. But there's one thing that I've always learned, that, hey, you're going to have your good days, you're going to have your bad days. What really separates the winners from the losers is how are you defined from those bad days? Are you going to let the bad days define you and just let you the bad wolf win and you just quit and throw in the white towel? Well, you can, but at the end of the day, you're not getting to where you're trying to get to. And let this also be a friendly reminder of where are you trying to get to? Why are you trying to get in shape? Do you want more energy? Do you want to get off your medications? Do you want to live longer? Do you want to fit into your old favorite clothes? Do you want to have more confidence taking off your shirt at the pool on a hot summer day? Do you want to just lose body fat? What are your goals? What is your why? And the more deep-rooted of a why that you can have, the better chances of you picking yourself up, brushing off the shoulders, right? And getting right back to work the following day. So I encourage you, think about your why. Think about that 2.0 version of yourself that you're trying to become. If that version of yourself has six-pack abs and, they have more energy to play with their kids and they're living their best life and they, are just optimal health, what would they do if they just had a whole week of binge eating and not caring, right? Do you think they would just quit? Or do you think they already established the habits of just getting right back, on track? And I want you to have that as a daily reminder to say no matter what happens to you, whether it's some stress, some illnesses, some cheat days, some anniversaries, some birthdays, whatever the case may be, hey, we all have times where we fall. I definitely do. I had a whole week of it, as I mentioned before. But think about the version that you're trying to get to, that 2.0 you. I bet you anything, right? They're going to have some grace within themselves and know that, hey, at the end of the day, it's all about that 1% better each and every day. So sure, we might have a day or two or a week of falling off the wagon, of having, bad eating habits, but it's okay. Let's pick ourselves right back up. Let's get right back on track. And I encourage you guys to do the same. So hopefully today's message is a little bit of encouragement for you guys. And hey, I like to say it like this. Nobody died because you had some cheesecake and some burgers and some fries, right? It's A-okay, right? Pick yourself right back up, get right back on track, follow through their habits that we talk about at Heartletics, and I promise you that you're going to have success. So, as always, guys, this has been Coach Joe with the Heartletics Podcast. I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace out, Girl Scouts.